better than Drew Porter. You heard it here for it. No, jeez, man.
Asking the clients, like, what do you want us? What is your goal for this project? Right? Where do you need help directing funding?
Dude, that's so advanced though. The needs assessment, like, really, yeah. Are we trying to like sell this to the higher ups? Are we trying to expose things? What
Right.
do you already know about your environment? But really talking through things is so important with the client like that, and
Yeah.
very few people do that. Like
Well,
measuring things up before you actually get down to business.
Then you can also shape your report, right? It's just like, yeah, you found, there's been times where we found like 2 critical vulnerabilities, and we talked about them in a report, but this high vulnerability was like a real big action item that this client wanted. And though the severity is lower than the 2 criticals, we like explained it. We put a lot of time in the executive outbrief on that particular vulnerability,
Sure.
so that team could get funding so that they could address not just that problem, but a problem that was like also tied to it that was just 3 medium vulnerabilities, right? But this one had to be fixed first before they could address these.
Man, I think that's so important. Like, I don't hear a lot of people in the industry talk about it. Maybe I'm just not tuned in or looking at the right sources, but nobody's really understanding that so many times you have very smart people on the client side. I think a lot of hackers come into an organization think, oh, the client has no idea what they're doing. That's why their security is terrible.
Yeah, no.
It's the politics at
It
play,
is.
man. And being able to navigate the politics, like as much as like we as hackers, I think, hate that, you can go a lot further in your career and you can make a lot more meaningful progress and move the needle for security if you understand how to navigate the politics behind it.
And especially now when we have, like all these crazy layoffs,
Yeah.
clients that are still hiring, they will remember that particular red teamer or that pen tester that really was able to help them out, right? And they're like, hey, I see that, NCC or Rapid7 or whoever is just, laid off 40% of their staff or something like that. And if you put, the, open to work tag down on your LinkedIn post, that I've seen where I have had friends who are working at these companies where they made a meaningful impact at another client and that client snapped them up.
Yeah.
Like just right after the layoff.
And thank God that's the way it should be too, because then you have a talented person that you're acquiring in a team that's already familiar with your network. Just makes sense for a lot of reasons.
And it's not just that experience of like being with your network, but it has that capability of being able to demonstrate the impact that needs to be demonstrated to higher ups.
The competency and the soft skills side of things too.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think that's a huge importance thing. And I think those like that soft skill capability bleeds off into red teaming, right? Because it bleeds directly into social engineering. It bleeds into not being that person that just gets tripped up because a security guard comes up to you and you're just like, what are you doing? Right? You can translate that. And if you notice someone who is a higher up that's coming up to you and asking you questions, right? You can discuss things and talk your way out of things in a way that makes sense to them, right? If you're saying, oh, I'm the wire puller, I'm pulling wire through the ceiling and you're dressed in a 3-piece suit, like that's not going to be an excuse that's going to fly with that VP that's coming in. Right. Never have they met someone that was a wire puller that is in a 3-piece suit.
Things aren't meshing up there for sure. I mean, I think you get a lot more value of your career if you have recurring clients that you establish those relationships with, that you understand the perspective and where they're coming from, then maybe it leads to a job down the road. But really, I mean, the short term, it's going to lead to better remediation of those vulnerabilities. And I think there probably is no greater gauntlet or challenge than doing this live, dynamic, on the fly on a red team. I mean, that is the ultimate demonstration of soft skills. And I think that's where trying to find a hacker who's capable of that, who can do physical, who knows virtual, because you're going to have, and like, a lot of other organizations split this up, the skill sets. One guy does entry, one guy does the persistent access, one guy handles the people, and you have your whole spotter team and the full support team. A lot of times this comes down to one person, like in our world, that needs to be able to coalesce and do all of this. And if you're able to do that, you're going to have a good career. You know how to do red team engagements, but you're going to be successful with your clients as well.
And on that, I think that's one of the things where like the public sector guys that are coming into the private sector, like they're niche, right? They're like PhDs. They don't actually have a PhD, but they're like a PhD in their niche, right? So the physical entry guys.
Right, siloed.
Yeah, they're unbelievably great in physical entry. But then it's like you put them in front of the keyboard and they're just like, right, so I know how to do, I know how to open up my web browser.
Calculator.
And I can open up Notepad.
That's right. I can open up your calculator too.
Yeah, that's right. and I think that it really, that companies are trying now, especially now, are trying to look for more value out of their red teamers, right? So they're not just looking for that individual that is siloed in physical, right? They're looking for that individual who can do the physical and they can also do some of the pen testing. Now, do they need to be someone who's like dropping O days and finding great vulnerabilities all the time when it comes to, things that no one has ever seen? No. But you should be competent enough to where you break in that building, you need to break in that network as well.
Right.
And you need to establish a foothold, because then someone else who is more senior or someone that does specialize in this particular item that you're trying to do, you've already gave them the foothold, right? You've already gone through those initial steps, and then they can take it off from there. Or they can help you while you're on the project so you can continue to learn.
Right. I wrestled with that concept for a long time, early in the career and before this too, the difference between generalization and specialization and which is more beneficial. And it's both, and I hate to take the cop out of that, but like really specialize in something, whether that's physical security, but if you can't do anything else besides that, you're hosed. And if you're just so general that you can't dive deep into a topic, you're hosed. So it's going to take both, and you're never going to have a tester who's good at all the physical entry, good at client communications, dynamic, on the thinking, flying solutions, and then also can come up with ODAs too, right? So if you pick one of those, but then also stay abreast of the other, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I like to tell young folks entering into this field. They're like, "Oh, I want to do covert entry." I'm like, "Great. Like, focus on covert entry. Be an expert in covert entry. Be really good at breaking into networks as well."
Yeah, I mean, well, especially just because our industry is information security, right? Everything, compliance drivers, it all flows. So I get that question all the time. I mean, we're at Black Hat right now and had, our booth running, had 10 different people come up to me. Hey, physical security, love it. That's what I want to do. Same boat. I was there too. I realized I had the physical security skill set. I did urban exploration, like not where I am now. And I knew very little at the time, relatively speaking. But I saw the need. I understood that all of this was housed in information security, cybersecurity. And that's what I needed to learn first before I could go deeper down this field and actually employ this in practice on the job. I had to learn how to hack.
Right. Yeah. And that will also make you more, more of a candidate for something, because it's easier, especially for like a consultancy, to bill you out because, okay, you can hack. Great. We have more work for hacking than we do physical.
Yeah.
Right. And I have not met a consultancy, that is over $10 million yet per year, like revenue, right? Coalfire is much, much, much larger than that. Right. But that is just purely a physical place. Right. But you find those where they're both combination physical and digital.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you can play in both those games, right? And I've found also the more senior you get, unless you decide, to become a fancy director or something.
Don't do it. It's a trap. That's great. Coalfire.
Yeah. I love my job. That you have this item of sorry, now I'm thinking about this.
You know how it is.
I do. I'm thinking of some other people that might be watching this, right? And then be like, does he really like being a director?
I know. We're gonna have to air this after things come to an end, which is gonna be a lifetime.
That's right.
Coalfire.
Lifer for life. That's right.
I have been there 8 years. I got the track record.
I know.
I'm really making a good pitch here. I'm selling it.
Hey, I only made it 9 months.
Better than Drew Porter. You heard it here for it. No, jeez, man.
That's easy. That's easy to do.
No, it's a shame in the industry too, though, that we have to jump off, like to really advance your career and propel, and that's what all the CISOs do too. I mean, you work it for a year, you get popped, and you head somewhere else, and you get the new sign-on bonus and things like that. So there's merit to it too, but also merit, seeing things through at Coalfire. I feel like an archivist, all the stuff I've seen over the years. I don't know. I just also want to make the distinction, like being a consultant versus working at a singular company. That's my greatest advantage. Like, it soothes my ADHD to be able to see so many different environments and always be learning something new, and having that environment that you can work in versus you work for the same company. Not that it's always the same. There's plenty to tackle and manage there, but to see different configurations, how people approach their problems, and then how we can destroy those problems and get what we need out of it too is very exciting as a consultant.